Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm calling the February 6th City Council meeting to order. And as a reminder, we continue to have a remote aspect to our meetings. Both staff and members of the public may be participating in tonight's meeting remotely via WebEx. The first item on the agenda this evening is the Pledge of Allegiance. I welcome you to join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda this evening is special business, ID 1355. It is a Black History Month proclamation. And I'd like to invite Issaquah Highlands Board President Kimberly Kapestein to come up to the podium with me. We have so many. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
You also.
Whereas Black History Month originated in 1926, when famed activist, writer, and preeminent historian Carter G. Woodson influenced the American Historical Society to designate the second week of February as Negro History Week. And whereas Negro History Week officially became Black History Month during the nation's bicentennial in 1976, and whereas Black History Month is now celebrated every February in recognition of the immense contributions of Black African Americans and all people of African descent in the United States, and whereas Issaquah celebrates the significant scientific, technological, economic, political, and cultural contributions of Black African Americans in the United States, and whereas each February, Black History Month serves as both a celebration and a powerful reminder that Black history is American history, Black culture is American culture, and Black stories are essential to our continued journey towards a better society and to understanding ourselves and to growing stronger as a community. And whereas Issaquah acknowledges and rejects the long history of institutional and structural racism toward Black African Americans in the U.S., and the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to confront racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals, not only during the month of February, but every month and every day of the year. Now, therefore, I, Mary Lou Pauley, Mayor of the City of Issaquah, do hereby proclaim February 2023 to be Black History Month in the City of Issaquah, and I urge all community members to join me in taking time to celebrate the contributions and achievements of Black African Americans, honor the legacies of past generations, reflect upon the centuries of injustice, and confront those injustices that still impact our communities today. So Kimberly, I have the proclamation for you, and I'd also like to invite you to come up and say a few words.
Lovely. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for having me as a representative of Issaquah Highlands, which is part of Issaquah. I appreciate that you take this time to acknowledge not only the folks who are here as part of Issaquah, but what we feel is a really important legacy to really bring attention to the things that are happening, but also to celebrate who we are as a people and what we contribute to the legacy and the history of our nation and our city. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So lastly, I want to acknowledge that while our community is moving towards greater racial equity, it is a journey. We still have a very long way to go. As Representative John Lewis said, do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. To honor Black History Month, join the City of Issaquah at the Issaquah Depot Museum on February 10th for a screening of the documentary A Ballerina's Tale. Following the documentary, participate in a community conversation on representation of Black African American men and women in various fields, especially corporate settings and government. More information and free tickets are available on the city's website. Thanks very much, Kim.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pictures? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you all. It means a lot.
The next item on our agenda this evening is audience comments, and members of the public may address the council at this time, in person or virtually. Those who signed up in advance to make comments will be called on first. If you are joining us virtually and would like to make comments, please raise your virtual hand or send the host a chat message. If you're on the phone, press *3, and if you have joined by a computer or smartphone, look for a hand icon. If you're in the room and did not sign up, I will ask for other speakers before closing this portion of the meeting. There is also a public hearing tonight, AB 8507, Amending Impact and Mitigation Fees. Comments on this item must be made under the public hearing occurring later in the meeting. Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak for general audience comments? And not in the room either?
No one has signed up.
Okay. Thank you.
Looks like we do
Oh, we have one.
Fantastic.
So I'm going to read a few more remarks, and then we'll invite you up. For those making comments, please direct your comments to the whole council and not individuals. And while this is not a question and answer session, we will contact you to follow up if needed. So when recognized, unmute your microphone or step up to the lectern. State your name, address, and relationship to the city. Speak clearly and pause frequently. And please limit your comments to 5 minutes. If you're attending virtually and do not respond after your name or phone number is called, or if your connection is lost unexpectedly, the meeting will still need to proceed, and you are encouraged to rejoin the meeting if able. Personal attacks, obscene language, derogatory remarks, and disruptive behavior will not be permitted. Citizen comments, written and verbal, are an important aspect to the public process. The city takes your comments seriously, and we thank you for taking the time to address us. Julian, if you want to come up.
Good evening, Council. Julia Midlil, resident of Issaquah. Just really quick comment on the new business request item. I think I would prefer, and I think people coming to council meetings would prefer having the public comment opportunities earlier in the meeting. And I don't think it's anything too revolutionary, too radical to do that. A lot of other cities, as the members' letter request laid out, other cities in the area do the same thing of putting committee reports and things of that nature after new business and things like that. And so I don't think it's anything too radical to do that. So I would suggest keeping the order as it is laid out in the members' request. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Seeing that there is nobody else, I just want to remind everybody that you can always send your comments into council at any time to citycouncil@issaquahwa.gov. And Council President Walsh, do you have any email comments to summarize on tonight's agenda items?
Yes, this week received comments from a resident, which included questions about our procurement policies, recommendations for the cemetery board item that's on the consent agenda, and support for several items also there: the King County Solid Waste Division grant acceptance, the stream enhancement project, and proposed impact fee adjustments. This community member also disagreed with the arts grant recommendation, which included $25,000 for arts in schools, preferring that it be spent on public spaces, and also did not support the order of business item on our agenda. And that summarizes our comments.
Thank you, Council President. We move on to committee and regional reports. We'll start with Councilmember Joe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a CWA board meeting on February 20th. It was a very short board meeting. Nothing was really important. It was more just administrative items taken care of. We had a LTAC orientation meeting with one of the new members from the Chamber of Commerce that we held with staff. And we want to make sure that the other representative from Village Theater also gets that orientation as well. And so we're working to set that up. The Finance Committee for CWA met on January 17th, and we're meeting again on February 21st. The CWA Board will meet again on February 22nd, and on February 21st, it's my understanding that We're going to try to get the alternate for CWA appointed through the proclamation or normal process, and look forward to making sure that gets done as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Joe. Councilmember DiMichele?
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. I have no report tonight, but the East Side Transportation Partnership will meet this Friday at 8 a.m. on Zoom, and the King County Regional Transit Committee will meet on March 15th at 3 p.m., both remotely and in person, and you can find more information about that meeting on the King County website. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hunt?
Thank you. The WIRA 8 Salmon Recovery Council met on January 19th. WIRA 8 is the technical name of our watershed. And we had one business item, which was to approve the legislative priorities for this upcoming legislative session, all of the things in the state's budget that support salmon recovery. And we approved that draft letter to send to the governor and our state legislature. And then we also had an informational presentation on the impacts of climate change on salmon and what can be done to mitigate against those impacts. The next meeting of the Salmon Recovery Council for WIRA 8 will be March 16th. And then I also have a report from the Planning, Development, and Environment Committee, which is a committee of this council. We met on January 24th. We had two items. The first one is ID 1327, amending IMC 3.73, impact fee study update frequency. And I will save my summary because that is the item that we have later this evening on with a public hearing. So I will save my comments for that. And then we had ID 1307 regarding Title 18. And this was a meeting where we had many staff members, all of the planning staff that worked on this come to the meeting, and they presented the work that they've done over the last many months to update our land use code, which has been a very important process that has taken a lot of effort and been a really big lift. And this was the first time where we saw it all together, and also were able to hear as a committee from the individual staff members who worked on different parts. So in this meeting, we as a committee were very grateful to staff for all their efforts so far. We were confident that the goals and the outcomes chart that we are using to evaluate this had, that we were making major progress towards meeting that. The areas where we felt needed additional work were also areas that we had previously identified as needing additional work. So namely missing middle housing, parking, to update our parking to be more pedestrian friendly, and then also stream buffers to adhere to the best available science. So those are all in future work items, and we felt that generally high level, the goals and outcomes chart that our goals and outcomes were being met with this update, and we felt really good about where it's headed. It will continue to be going through a process of having finishing touches and additional work by Planning Policy Committee. So our council committee looks forward to seeing the work of Planning Policy Committee as they work through those last remaining items, but this is coming in for a landing, so it's great. We will meet this committee will also meet January 7th, tomorrow, and we have one item, which is Title 18 Land Use Code, and we will be reviewing the Planning Policy Commission recommendations. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Ray?
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Mertz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Sound Cities Association Public Issues Committee will be having an online virtual meeting this Wednesday, February 8th. We'll be discussing the solid waste rate structure, affordable housing countywide planning policies, have an update on crisis care centers levy, King County Homelessness Authority 5-year plan as well. Council Services, Safety, and Parks Committee will meet at a special time and date, Wednesday, February 22nd, which I guess is more than 2 weeks away. So I'll talk about that at the next council meeting. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Mertz. Deputy Council President Hall?
Thank you. A quick one. So the Eastside Fire and Rescue Board of Directors met earlier today to approve, it's going to be a mouthful, to approve our agency's response to a request for proposals from King County Fire District 45, which is Duval. And that is for a contract for services. So we've submitted we've responded to that request, which is an exciting and evolving opportunity for the agency. And there's going to be much, much more to come in the months to come. So we'll keep you in the loop on that. Our next board meeting is this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. at our headquarters on Newport Way. And the only thing of note is we'll be electing new board leadership then. So other than that, that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Council President?
Thank you. The King County Affordable Housing Committee will have a joint meeting with the Growth Management Planning Council on February 23rd from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. at Kirkland City Hall, again discussing those county-wide planning policies that are going through the mix everywhere. And then the PSRC Growth Management Policy Board met on February 2nd. The next meeting is on March 2nd. And during our last meeting, we received the results from a really interesting statewide and countywide housing opinion survey, which was on public opinions on, is housing affordable? Have you been kicked out of your house? Have you not been able to receive housing? But it also had opinions on how to address the problem. And so that was really interesting. We also heard about the housing typology, which is a horrible name for basically an opportunities strategy. The PSRC regional housing strategy had 3 steps. The first was monitoring. The second one is this opportunities strategy, because we've all said, hey, every city, every community is different. Some of them want to preserve their currently affordable housing. Others are needing to create more affordable housing. And so this identified strategies that would be most important for different areas. So, and all based on census tracts. So Issaquah, all of our tracts were identified as higher growth areas and higher opportunity with a lower displacement risk. And so the strategies that were tailored toward those ideas weren't things about, maintaining affordable housing that already exists, but it was more things like what can we do to create affordable housing, such as parking reductions and small lots. So another really interesting piece, but all of it was informational, no votes, and so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Council President. Next item on the agenda this evening is the Mayor's report. And before I start that, I just wanted to make a quick staff introduction. Before council meeting today, I introduced a new partner in our executive office. Regina Kaliniak has joined us as of last Wednesday. And so for those who are trying to coordinate with the mayor's office, Mr. Bobkowitz's office, Regina is going to be the point of contact, and we're really glad to have brought her on. Thanks for coming tonight, Regina. In the mayor's report, there will not be an executive session this evening. AB 8545, this is the Mall Street water main emergency. So on tonight's consent agenda, City Council is being asked to authorize to execute a change order for the emergency water line replacement project on Mall Street. City Council members will recall that the city staff responded to 2 water main breaks on Mall Street just west of State Route 900 in late October and early November. These were large breaks in a very old asbestos cement plant, which resulted in substantial damage, water loss, business disruption, and some minor property damage. To address the issue quickly, City Administrator Bobkowitz authorized an emergency purchase that enabled city staff and a contractor to restore domestic and fire service to area businesses. City staff spent nearly 500 hours on site assessing these breaks. I know that Public Works has received notes of appreciation from businesses and property owners in that area, and I would like to thank the Public Works staff again for their hard work in very tough conditions and for their effective, urgent problem solving. Last week, the City of Issaquah and McDonald Miller Facility Solutions officially launched the Clean Buildings Incentive Program. The program provides Issaquah building owners with no-cost consultant services to improve energy efficiency. In addition, eligible buildings can apply for state incentive payments to make needed retrofits. This program helps advance our community's for climate action in reducing energy use in existing buildings. Issaquah Clean Buildings Incentive Program information, including how to apply, is available at issaquah.gov/cleanbuildings. And this past weekend, I had the opportunity to participate in the Youth Advisory Board's Civic Engagement Forum. It was a great event, and I want to thank council members who attended. We heard from 8th through 12th grade students about leadership and the issues that are most important to them. I want to thank the Youth Advisory Board for hosting this excellent event. And Issaquah is now accepting applications for all city boards and commissions. Our boards and commissions cover a broad range of topics: arts, economic development, environmental issues, growth, and even international diplomacy. We value a variety of perspectives and life experiences and encourage people of all backgrounds to apply. Members serve without compensation but may be eligible to participate in the city's stipend program. Please help us spread the word about our various boards and commission opportunities. And to learn more about boards and commissions and to apply, go to issaquahwa.gov/apply. Just a note on a few upcoming events. A community favorite has returned, the Valentine Dance. Join us for this parent or guardian child event on February 11th at the Issaquah Community Center. You are welcome to bring more than one child at no extra cost. Dress casual or formal and arrive ready to show off your dance moves and make cherished memories. Registration is required on the City of Issaquah website. Longtime local artist Anna McCrae is displaying 15 pieces of work in the art gallery at Blakely Hall through the end of March. The gallery, titled Fractured Landscapes, plays with contrast and contradiction to create paintings referencing urban and rural landscapes. Come and meet the artist at Blakely Hall during a gallery reception on Saturday, February 18th from 12 to 2 p.m., hosted by the Issaquah Highlands Community Association. And the last note is that the Issaquah City Hall will be closed on February 20th for the President's Day holiday. The next item of business is the consent calendar, and it was distributed to council in advance. If authorized, the items on the consent calendar will be considered together and approved by one motion. Have the payables and payroll been reviewed?
They have.
Thank you.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. The city clerk has a correction to one of the consent calendar items. City clerk?
Yes, I'd like to note that. I would like to note that Councilmember Hunt noticed a correction to consent calendar item C, which are the City Council special meeting minutes of the November 29th social gathering. So her name has been removed from the minutes. The corrected version is what is on the agenda for approval this evening.
Thank you, City Clerk. Does any council member desire to remove any item from the consent calendar and consider it under regular business? Okay, seeing none, would somebody be prepared to make a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded as presented. Is there any council discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those opposed? That carries unanimously. The next item of business is our public hearing, AB 8507, amending impact and mitigation fees, and I'd like to invite Long Range Planning Manager Stephen Padua to present this item. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Mayor Polly. Good evening, members of the City Council. Tonight, I'm here to speak on the proposed updates to the city's impact fees and mitigation fees. So give me 1 second to share my screen. City Clerk, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So to give a little background information, the city has established multiple fees that help the city accommodate growth. The first is impact fees, which are collected with all development projects and are allocated towards specific projects as part of the development. The city also collects mitigation fees, which are collected for projects which have SEPA mitigated requirements as part of the project, which aren't typically allocated to a specific project, but types of projects that go towards the mitigation. All of these fees can only be allocated towards projects which are designed to accommodate growth. On a regular basis, these fees are updated according to inflation using the building cost index for the fire impact fee and the construction cost index for all the other fees. The last inflation update was conducted in 2020. These fees are codified in the listed sections in the municipal code, which details how the fees are administered and updated. The administration is proposing 2 changes tonight, which are recognized in the draft ordinances in your materials. The first change is to update the fee schedule in accordance with information cumulative since the last update in 2020. And this equates to just over 28% for the building index and just over 15% for the construction index. The second update being proposed tonight is to remove the 3-year requirement for the study updates. Instead, the administration will evaluate the fees on an annual basis to determine when each or all of the studies should be updated. The checklist that was included in your materials for tonight outlines the type of information staff will look at each year and provide an informational update to City Council if and when an update will be budgeted. The reason for this change is to coordinate the study updates with our upcoming projects, but also give the administration more flexibility on how to update these studies and efficiently allocate city resources. The projects that we're looking forward to is the Comprehensive Plan Periodic Update, the Park Strategic Plan Update, Concurrency Update, and the city's Facilities Planning Study, all of which will influence many of the studies and rates that will be allocated for the fees. The next step is to bring this item back to City Council on February 21st. And with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Stephen. I'd like to see if Committee Chair Hunt would like to provide the Planning Development Environment Committee recommendations for this item.
Yes, thank you. The Planning Development and Environment Committee discussed this at our January 24th meeting. We were supportive of the changes that were put forward by the administration. And we were generally appreciative of having these criteria and the processes that were laid out in the ordinances. And one thing that we did discuss is that we would like staff to bring updates to council on these future fee updates so we know when they're updated and so that we can track them as well. The committee concurred with the proposed amendment to remove the 3-year requirement and allow more flexibility on when studies are updated, which could also be cost savings as you can align with when these studies are needed. And the committee concurred with the proposed 2023 impact fee rates included in the ordinance. We also deferred on whether this would be on consent or not based on this public hearing, and then we'll make a decision after that. But generally, we were supportive and recommended to the full committee full council to go forward with these amendments.
Thank you, Council Member. Do any council members have any questions? Okay. Then I'm going to open the public hearing at 7:27 p.m. And again, for those of you who've joined us tonight would like to make comments, not sign up in advance, please raise your virtual hand. If you're on the phone, this might mean pressing *3. If you've joined by computer or smartphone, look for the hand icon. This can vary by device. One option may be to go to the participant panel and choose the raise hand icon in the lower right-hand corner. Has anyone signed up to speak or indicated a desire to speak, City Clerk?
Mayor, no one has signed up in advance. We have one member of the public on virtually. I'm just monitoring, but I don't see that they wish to speak at this time, unless there's anyone in the room.
Shanda, is it on the mitigation fees that you'd like? Oh, that's fantastic. Come on up to the podium.
Yes, hi, my name is Shanda Boyd. I wanted to say that I think it's such a... Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Shanda Boyd, and I think that it is an excellent idea, actually, because we live in a time where things are constantly changing, to look at this annually as opposed to even every 2 or 3 years. So I'm for that.
Thank you very much, Shanda. Mr. Kapler, we're doing a public comment if you are interested in, no, he's a big no wave there. Okay, well, thank you very much for the comments. Is there any objection to closing the public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing closes at 7:29 p.m. The City Council is anticipated to take action on this item at the February 21st, 2023 City Council meeting. The next item is regular business, and we have no items on our agenda this evening under regular business, so we'll start with new business. ID 1325. This is a new business request, the City Council meetings order or a business update. At the January 17th City Council meeting, Deputy Council President Hall introduced a new business request item, and the City Council voted to forward the item to the second step, a preliminary staff response. A staff response was provided in the agenda packet. City Administrator Bob Kowitz will speak to it briefly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. The administration's reviewed the requests, and while we do not object to the changes in order of business generally, the administration does not support moving the committee reports and the mayor's reports down the order of business as proposed. Oftentimes, the committee reports for council standing committees pertain to items on the consent calendar. The administration believes the committee's recommendations should be heard and considered before a vote is taken on the agenda items. Similarly, the mayor's report often provides additional information or highlights of an item on the consent calendar. This can be informative to city council members prior to the agenda items. So for those reasons, the administration recommends not making changes at this time. Be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you, City Administrator. If the City Council would like to request this item be placed on the city's, let's see. The City Council would like to request this item to be placed on the city's 2023 work plan. A motion can be offered. Are there any questions or a motion? Councilmember Hunt.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to direct the administration to take all necessary actions to change the order of business for City Council meetings to follow the proposed order of business in the new business request as it appears on pages 195 and 196 of our packet. I can
That would be great.
share that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Council discussion? Council President.
Actually, we go.
Oh, sorry, motion maker.
Thank
Councilmember Hunt.
you. Many times, community members will come and they will be here to make comments on and to listen to our deliberations and discussion on the regular business items. The regular business meeting is focused around these regular business items, and our deliberations and discussions on those items is really important and really what we are here to do. We make policy and we make decisions and pass ordinances in regular business, and we discuss why during that part of the meeting. On a personal note, when I started on council, I had a 6-month-old baby and a toddler, and I remember, having discussions about how we could make this process more inclusive, how we could make sure that we are making sure that people that come to their meetings were respecting their time. They take time out of their busy lives to come here and provide public comment. And I certainly was tired by the end of some of those meetings and not maybe making the best possible decisions that I could have made if we had just moved things up. I don't think it solves all of our time challenges. Sometimes items will go long, absolutely. Sometimes we may need to take extra time, and I think we should do that when we need to. But I think this moves items closer to the start of the meeting. It gives us a little more control over when our regular business items start. And I really am supportive of making this small change. As the community member who spoke at earlier at public comment, I don't think this is a big change. I think it's a small change, but I think it will be meaningful for the people who take the time out of their busy lives to come here. I also took some time to review how other cities do this, because at our last discussion, there was concern, and the administration also has this concern about that our regional, or not our regional reports, our committee reports sometimes talk about items on consent. So I thought, let's look at what other cities do. And so I watched the beginnings of the meetings for Kirkland, Snoqualmie, and Redmond. Redmond I was especially interested in because they have a similar structure to us. They have committees, they make recommendations, the full council decides, they have a consent calendar, and they have their reports later. And I have to say, they got through those items really fast, and I was really impressed. And I watched all those 3 meetings last night, and I was thinking maybe I'm in for a long time doing this research, but it actually was quite quick. So I will say I am supportive of this. I think it will help us get to our regular business items a little bit faster, and it will make sure as well, it has one added benefit that we will put our committee reports on things like Title 18, which is our land use code, which we have been working on for many months. That will put that closer to good of the order, which could be a discussion time for council. So for regional reports, for things that we want to discuss with council, it puts it closer to good of the order so we could have a more collaborative process on that. I think that as well, there are other opportunities. If something really needs to be said on consent, it can be said when the consent calendar is called. There's a discussion call, and if the chair of a committee really needed to make a statement, they could, and the mayor can also make a statement beforehand. I believe it was Kirkland's, in their meeting, they had a statement beforehand, and in Redmond, they had a statement right after the consent calendar on something that was on consent. So I think we have flexibility, and I think this generally makes sense. I don't think it's a huge change, but I think it will move items up and get us to our regular business faster so we can make the decisions we need to make when we're earlier in the evening, and we can make sure that we better respect people's time that take time out of their lives to come here. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember DiMichele, the seconder, followed by Council President.
Thanks. I'll be very brief because Councilmember Hunt said it very well, but when this was first brought to our attention, I was particularly interested in the placement of the regional reports, because there have been many, many evenings when I would have liked to have asked more questions, liked to have had more discussion, but you don't want to delay the meeting and make it extra long, because people are coming here out of taking time to come here, watch what we're doing, and they have items of much more importance to them. So just very selfishly, from a standpoint of having more dialogue about how we can interact with our regional committees and with each other, and I would like to see us try this. I think it would be, as Councilmember Hunt said, it's not a big change, but I think it might be a much more collegial or collaborative process if we are able to spend some more time on those regional reports and have time to discuss those and converse about them. So I would be supporting this as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Council President?
Thank you. I also just wanted to address, I appreciate the administration bringing up the concerns that they had. I think that there is absolutely an opportunity to allow the mayor, committee chairs, if they have something on consent agenda, to make comments during that. I think that's the perfect time for it. I would also highlight that it's 7:30, and at this point, we are just getting to our business item. And so that means we have several staff members that have had to stay here through this, that, it just, if they have a presentation on an item and don't have to stay through our regional reports, I think that just makes sense as a respect for our community and our staff members as well. So I am also in support of this. I think it also responds to, the survey results, which we've seen, which say members of the community don't attend or watch council meetings to get general information. There are better ways to get that out to the public. And so to do that in the communication channels where that makes the most sense, I also want to support. Thank you.
Deputy Council President?
Thanks. Yeah, quick question and then comment. Could the motion be reread? I think I missed it the first time around. Is it the one that's included in the packet? Or
No,
something
it's a different one. And actually, if it's okay, I'll talk to that right now. The action that can happen tonight is to move it to the work plan, not necessarily to adopt the change itself, but to move it to the work plan and to pick a date certain for the vote. Is that correct? Okay. Second is just a.
Mayor.
Yep.
I think you probably need to get discussion, because I think the motion doesn't say that. That's
Right.
been presented, so.
Right. So, Councilmember Hunt.
Can I get a clarification? So the motion was a recommended motion, but I can make a different motion, and I made a different motion than what was in the packet. But it says it can be amended, and I changed it.
And I think it's just for clarity of next steps. I think that's why we're asking the question, that the administration, I think as we looked at these new business items, The question was, where does this fit in the overall work plan of the city? Now, this is an amendment to procedure. Perhaps it's not like taking on a whole new initiative, which I think is one of the things we discussed. So if the council is looking to bypass steps, then I think the council needs to be clear with that, and the motion needs to be clear with that, because right now the motion isn't clear with that.
Councilmember?
Okay, my intent is to, I don't believe that, I think we have the information that we need to make a decision on moving the item. I don't think it's a big policy decision. It's moving a couple orders of business in the way we do our meetings. And I also note that there was not additional information provided in the materials that council received tonight, but there was some research that had been done previously by Councilmember Hall. And I don't think this needs to be a big work item. I think we have the information needed to make it tonight. I also think that the motion is, if there's a question about the intent of the motion or the motion itself, I will clarify that. But the intent is not to make a work item, because I think we can vote on this tonight.
You can't. So the question is, what additional steps do you wish to have happen? So if the council wishes to bypass any further discussion on this, we would put a rules change at a future meeting. So I would imagine an ordinance at a future meeting. So you can either have a date certain. Again, it's not a lot of work on our part to do that. So we could probably come back on the 21st with that. But that is, again, that was never the steps contemplated when this new business policy was coming up. So I think the administration just wants to recognize that the council is bypassing the process that you set. And if you're comfortable with that, great, but that you're bypassing the process you set.
Councilmember Ray, you looked like you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was, but I was going to withdraw. I mean, if it's a rules problem, we can just suspend the rules too. But if we can just move this forward, I think that's, let's be true to what we've been talking about, which is being very efficient with our time. So, I mean, I think we're not doing ourselves a great service. So let's figure out how we can move this thing forward as quickly as possible.
Can you rewrite that one for me then? Good date. Deputy Council President. Oh, it's okay. One of the other items for consideration too is consent calendar. In order to do a report on an item, you'd be pulling it down. So it would end up on regular business. Correct?
That's consistent with how the city council has operated. So the rules could, we could configure a different process in the rules.
Okay. Council President?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. There is a moment at the beginning of the consent agenda where we ask if there is something that we want to pull down, but then after that point, you ask if there are any comments. I think that would be the time when a committee chair or the mayor would be able to make a comment on an item that's still on the consent agenda. Is that not the way our rules of procedure run?
Historically, when that question has been posed to the clerk's office, we've advised the council member to pull that item down for discussion. So again, I think it's within the realm of possibility. I think it would probably just be a good thing to clarify in the rules so that it could be consistent and clear, that delineation between when you pull the item down versus just speak to it generally.
Okay, then let me ask the motion maker. It sounds like there might be some other things that we need to address with the rules in order to effectuate what you're talking about, which is changing the order of business toward the one that was proposed. Do you want to move forward with the motion as you've discussed and as they might be reconfiguring, or how do you want to address this?
Okay, so I've heard to put a date certain on when it comes back. That's one change. And I think we can, I think the motion itself, it says to direct to make the changes to allow for this. So if we want to have a discussion call that is, we do call for discussion on consent, but if we want to clarify that if the chair needs to make a comment, then they can make a comment at that time as part of that direction. I think that would be consistent. And as far as the date, I think the next regular meeting is the 21st. So,
Yeah, just going to pass a suggested addition to the motion. If you want to read that into the record, if you agree with the suggestion.
And I think that what probably both the city clerk and I have seen in other places is that moment other councils take advantage of. And so while all of you may not be there, if your rules are not very tight, you can get members who will then start debating the item before the consent calendar is called. So I think what I'm hearing what the council wants is you don't want that, but you do want an opportunity should a committee chair or the mayor wish to make a pertinent comment before the consent calendar that happens. So I think we can craft the rule that would only allow the standing committee chair or the mayor to make a comment and not allow anyone else, then they would otherwise be out of order. I've seen it happen. It's not something you want to get started. And so I think by drafting rules that are very specific, while it seems a little arcane in practice with different sets of council members in the future, you'll be avoiding what then might turn into a very long discussion about the consent calendar.
Councilmember Martz.
I think this is turning out to be a more complicated topic than we thought when we first were discussing it 10 minutes or so ago. I am certainly, I stand with the majority of the council for wanting to make this change ultimately, but there's a number of permutations that people have talked about in the last couple minutes that made me realize that I personally would like to give the administration a chance to dot its I's and cross its T's such that we're well placed going forward. It's clear that at the very least, the majority of the council would like to, where we want to get to in the end. But this talk of getting to a point where like one or two people could comment on the consent agenda, the rest can't, is not a place we want to find ourselves. Thanks.
Councilmember Hunt.
thank you. I think that is, at least with the current configuration, we can, there is a time when it's called for discussion already. Also, the chairs can already make discussion. I don't think it's going to be a challenge. I would like to just move this forward, so I will move to amend my motion to add the following. Move to return to the City Council for action at the February 21st, 2023 City Council meeting.
Is there any further discussion? Councilmember DiMichele?
I'll second the amended motion.
Okay. Second degrees. Any discussion? Council President?
Yeah, I think we, as a council, have done a very good job of addressing this, or being able to handle ourselves with decorum. And in the future, if we need to make a change to our rules of procedure, we're really good at doing that on about an annual basis. So I see no problems with moving forward with an area that it seems there is a majority of council and agree with. Try it. If it doesn't work, we will make a change and we can go with that. So I still support this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? It's been moved and seconded to direct the administration to take all necessary actions to change the order of business for city council meetings to follow the proposed order of business in the new business request as it appears on page 195 through 196 of our packet, and to return to the city council for action at the February 21st, 2023 city council meeting. It's got everything in it? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay. That passes 6-1. And the next item of business this evening is good of the order. Are there any items? Councilmember DiMichele, followed by Council President.
Thank you, Mayor Pauly. I have a couple of reports. The first one is I'd like to report on last Tuesday's Affordable Housing Symposium that was put on by the Housing Development Consortium and the Urban Land Institute, which was attended by myself and Mayor Pauly a week ago Tuesday. It was an excellent gathering of Eastside cities, school districts, and organizations. The half-day agenda was packed with informative presentations, and too many of them to name them all. But I would like to highlight a presentation by Greg Colburn, who tackled the myths around homelessness and housing with extensive research. I think we all know that the root cause of homelessness is that there aren't enough homes. And while it's important to address the extensive needs for mental health and substance abuse prevention and treatment, initiatives directed to those problems will not solve the homelessness or affordable housing crisis. The last panel then introduced the Affordable Housing Toolkit, which was distributed to council members earlier this evening, with 20 recommended tools for increasing our housing supply, decreasing the cost of housing, and reducing homelessness. And it was a morning well spent. You want to add anything, Mayor Polly?
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for attending. It was a great event. They had wildly popularly attended.
Yes.
It was a very full room. Also, some of the speakers had talked about making this an annual forum where we can talk more broadly about who has adopted the different tools in the toolkit and what results they're seeing, and potentially come up with some sort of dashboard to measure which tools are really effectively moving the needle. So it was very good.
Yeah.
It's a great event.
Great. And then the second item, Councilmember Joe and I would like to report on the sustainability conference that was held a week ago Monday. Absolutely excellent gathering of environmentally interested people in our community, and really good turnout, really good speakers again, and a really good opportunity, the way it was set up, with tables and conversation groups to really connect with a lot of people. And I sent an email, but I will commend them publicly. Stacy and Juliana did a fabulous job of facilitating that evening, because it was a packed, tight room, and it was very, very well managed. So anyway, Councilmember Joe, you want to add?
Oh, I think you covered it quite well. I would just commend David Kapler, who's in the room, for his many years of environmental activism. He was at that meeting as well, and was also at the Civic Engagement Forum as well. And I really appreciate the fact that he, after leaving council, stayed very active in the community, a little bit like Jimmy Carter, staying involved and making sure that he's still making a difference. So I would just add that call out.
Thank you. I'll just add as well that it was very fun to see organizations that were established 40 years ago meeting organizations that were established 2 years ago, and not even realizing all of the different groups that were in the room. So it was great. We will be having a sustainability summit coming up, and I did speak with the Snoqualmie tribe today about making sure that we have a stewardship message from them, from the ancestral lands movement, you know, why the tribe does what they do and how our work can tie into it here as well. So that's pretty exciting. Council President.
Yeah, just a short note. I plan to attend the City Action Days in Olympia in about a week. And so while the expense is under the $500 cap that's within my authority to approve, I just wanted to see if anybody has any objections to that expense. Okay, the city clerk should have what she needs. Thanks.
Councilmember Hunt.
I have one update to a prior committee report. At the January 4th committee meeting from the Planning, Development, and Environment Committee, we recommended adoption of a contractor code of conduct for private projects, and that it be approved at today's meeting on consent. However, then after that, the city attorney has recommended that this be codified in Title 16, and so that will take more time to draft the ordinance, and so this will actually be coming back for adoption at the March 7th meeting. And so since I had previously reported on that item, I wanted to give the council an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Is there any other comments for good of the order? I have a few events. Monday, February 13th, the Committee of the Whole Council meeting. The anticipated agenda items include the Washdock Culvert projects, capital improvement plan goals and outcomes, and Tuesday, February 21st is the regular City Council meeting with anticipated agenda items including the 12th Avenue Northwest and State Route 900, 17th Avenue project bid award, and amend to contract. Any other items from anybody? All right. There is no executive session this evening, so there being no further business, we are adjourned at 7:54.